So I hate share screen because I can't scroll. I don't know how to scroll inside of there it is. Okay. There we go. Okay, then. So as usual, we have a packed agenda, and John and I spent several hours trying to make it manageable. And I hope you got the messages that there was important stuff in the notes in the consent calendar. So are there any adjustments that people want to make to the agenda? John?
Yeah, first adjustments. Let's see. I want to modify motion number 7 in the consent calendar, which is the one that has all of our committee information. I'd like to add Dwight Owens and Gary Reber to the list of people to be approved for the Willamette Greenway Advisory Committee.
Okay.
I would also like, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
I didn't
Go
mean to
ahead.
interrupt John. John was still finishing, I think.
I have one other item, and that is I would like us to vote to approve the Willamette Greenway Committee voicing their opposition to a vacation of improved public easement at Greenway Apartments at 785 River Road. The application has been deemed complete, and the owners of that property, they tried previously to lock the public access through their property. They're now applying to have the public access removed. And since it's a committee and where they want to act, we have to approve that action. So at some point, I want to add that as an item. Hopefully we can just vote it up and move it on.
So are you calling for a vote right now? Because we're still doing agenda adjustments.
I'm asking to add it to the agenda.
Okay. I have hands up for Jackie, Susan, and Charles in that order.
My adjustment was for the consent calendar, motion number 1. I could not find the May 9th meeting minutes out in the folder. So
I didn't either. So we would remove that from approval of
yes.
tonight. So it'd be just the April 18th board meeting. Unless, Stefan, you know where it is. Okay.
Susan?
Yes, I'd like to move that we adjust motion number 7, which is the committee discussion, until after we talk about prioritization. It seems a little disingenuous to talk about committees that we're going to have before we talk about the priorities that we've all agreed on and the feedback we got from the community.
So shall we pull that from the consent calendar and put
We
it in the
can-
regular agenda?
I think we should put it with project prioritization.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
So-
that's a good idea because hopefully some of our priorities can go to committees.
Correct.
So how about if we put that after item number 5?
Great.
Great.
Chelsea?
Yeah, I
Oh.
think I'm jumping ahead. I was seeing that announcements are part of this item, and I don't have an adjustment. I have an announcement.
Okay, I'll
need to
call you
wait.
in again in a minute.
Okay.
Stefan? Are you on mute? I don't see you. I see Stefan's hand up, but he's not talking. Okay, go ahead, Chelsea.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that our website now has the capability of being read in Spanish. Thanks to Joshua's help. We now have a button on every page at the top of every screen that says English, but it can be toggled to Spanish. So that should be a big help. Thank you.
Okay. John, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have an announcement, and that is that I'm going to be putting together a request for the county commission by noon tomorrow, asking to renew the $23,000 they gave us last year to make our outreach funding complete to match, to cover the people who are not city residents. And he's asked Pat Farr has asked me to list our accomplishments. So if you want to blast me an email before noon tomorrow about some accomplishment you want to make sure I don't miss, that would be helpful. Thank you.
John, point of clarification on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we, because we're pulling together the accomplishments for the city too, is it the same? Can we give them the same thing?
Well, we don't have either. So yes, I intend to keep that information for that purpose.
Okay, Susan.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to quickly, since we're also doing announcements, let everybody know that the newsletter is on time and we are on target thanks to the incredible work by Chelsea and a lot of the great contributors, Jackie, Carly, John. We really appreciate all your help. And so we are going to have a draft that we will be sending out at probably on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have that draft that we can send to everybody. At that point, we'll be really close to finalizing it. So we will only be addressing any major concerns, but please make sure that when y'all receive it, you take a look and only let us know if there are any blaring issues. We have been working with all the folks that we had agreed on from the agenda back in the last meeting, and Charles's already got the layout pretty much in place. And since she has company this weekend, we want to try to give her a weekend. So thank you in advance.
Did you get all the pet pictures lined up?
We got almost all the pet pictures. Actually, thank you. That's a great reminder, Claire. We're looking for a couple more pet pictures. So this is what we're doing as a pet match. We're trying to have a little bit more fun in there. We're just trying to show some people in the community and get people talking. And so if you have an individual picture of yourself and an individual picture of your pet, it could be any pet. It doesn't have to be a dog, although normally dogs are what people might see in the neighborhood, so they could match the pets and the people. That said, put anything you want in there. And Charles, do you want to jump in and just say how people submit it? Do you want to put it in the chat?
It's just good if it's a fairly high resolution portrait shot. And I can cut them down and adjust them, but when the resolution gets too low, it's awfully difficult to work with. Misty, I have to tell you, you sent 2 pictures before you left, but we didn't have names for those 2 pictures. So if you could forward me the names of those people and pet, I'll be happy to try to work them in. We don't have very many slots, only a couple more.
I don't have the name of the individual.
Okay, great. Thanks. And the dog or pet.
Sorry. None of
Stefan,
those.
did you still have your hand up? No, you don't. Okay. Any other hands up? Any other announcements? Okay, then. Consent calendar.
So Claire suggested that I quickly run down all the motions we have there so that folks, if they do want to pull something, we can easily do that. And any one person can pull a motion. So I'm going to go through real quickly. If you have any questions, let me know. Motion number 1 is approve the minutes of the April 18th board meeting. Motion 2 is to ask committee chairs to submit quarterly reports of their activities to the board and list what that would contain. Motion 3 calls for the board to review those committee reports quarterly or earlier if needed. 4, board should revise, update, and reinstate committees annually. Motion 5 is to approve the Willamette Greenway Advisory co-chairs and members. The co-chairs that the committee has submitted are myself and Julie Hume. Measure 6 is a request to send a letter to the Planning Commission requesting the action that the Willamette Greenway Advisory Committee is suggesting for their amendments to the Willamette Greenway for clear and objective. Motion 7 we have pulled and put later in the meeting for excuse me, Susan's request. And those are the motions. So does anyone want to request that any others be pulled from the consent calendar? Seeing none, it would be appropriate for someone to make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Would someone like to do that?
I'll
This is
move.
Susan.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is Susan. I make a motion to move to the vote on the consent calendar.
Move to approve?
Yes,
Okay,
thank
is there
you.
a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Susan made the motion and Charles seconded to approve the consent calendar as amended. All those in favor, why don't you raise your hand in reaction? Or put a green dot on.
I can't find my reaction when I have screen share on.
Are we
So,
not going to do roll calling anymore?
Well, if it's unanimous, we don't need to do roll calling.
Okay.
But if it's not unanimous, my hand is up. Then we do.
Okay, it is unanimous. So,
Okay.
Stefan, please record a unanimous vote in favor. And I suggested in the comments for the board meeting that we should actually include these motions in the minutes so folks can know what they are in the future. Okay, thanks, everybody. Lower your hands.
Okay, now we get to review our last general meeting, which I wasn't at, but I do want to kick off this discussion by sharing that I implied that John had not passed on the information for our speakers for that meeting. And I want to correct the fact that he did pass on the information, but I misinterpreted it as meaning that they were already confirmed. So that snafu is partially my responsibility, and I apologize for that. And then y'all did pretty good by the seat of your pants, I hear. Does anybody want to comment on the last meeting?
This is Susan.
Oh, Susan.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll just chime in and just say, I thought that the feedback session, while it was impromptu, actually worked pretty well. I do think that we need to set up systems in place for how we accept feedback going forward, so we have a plan in place when these things happen again. But I really appreciated hearing feedback, and it was very helpful as we go into our prioritization discussion.
Yeah. Jackie?
I was not able to get into the meeting. I sat in the waiting room for about 20 minutes and it never let me in, and I was pretty sick, so I never really pursued it much harder. But I don't know if other people ended up stuck in the waiting room, but I was never admitted to the meeting.
Well, I have some responsibility for that. I apologize, Jackie. I kept checking, but I was also running the meeting. So it's an excuse and not a good one, but I apologize.
I wonder if that setting is worth turning off of, maybe we don't need to keep people in the waiting room.
Yeah, I think you're right. We need to do that.
So the
Charles,
alternative is to give everybody a password, and that works, right?
yeah.
Yeah, when you click the link, it lets you in, kind of, usually the password's attached to that link and just kind of lets you right into the meeting.
Okay, good point.
Sometimes you have to type it in, but then it just lets you right in. You don't have to sit in a holding room anywhere. So I don't know if we need to make a motion on that, but I would turn the waiting room off.
I think we can do it unless there's an objection.
Yeah. Charlesy?
Well, I think it was a fortunate meeting in a lot of ways. We've talked about trying to find ways of bringing opportunities to get input from our members. And I thought that was a delightful fix for the predicament we were in. And I really appreciated the comments from the members that were there. Also, I would kind of like to see us maybe consider having kind of an open-ended forum like that periodically in our general meetings. Thank you.
Anything else?
Joshua's hand is up.
Well, should I let him speak or not?
Oh, I think we'll let him speak. How's that?
I just wanted to add a quick technical note and say that with the Zoom, even if you have the waiting room turned on at the beginning of the meeting, like if you want to have a period where you can control who gets in, then you can just open up the participants window, go into the little ellipsis and just say, turn off the waiting room, and then everybody will just pile on in from that point on. So it doesn't
great.
have to be a either or.
Great. Okay, thank you, Joshua.
Thank you.
Susan, your hand's up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to chime in on one more thing. I just want you to let y'all know that as we're working on trying to build up recruitment and getting more people involved in the board, as a result of our board meeting or the general meeting last week and some of the IM chats that were made, I'm having tea tomorrow with one of the young ladies, the woman Sherry, who was there with her partner, and they were the younger couple. We're getting together tomorrow so they can talk about how they can be a bigger part of the organization. So I just want to give you all that very positive feedback that it worked. It did what we wanted it to do. It started to get more people comfortable with reaching out to us. So great job.
Good deal. And if I may, I wanted to thank Dan for letting me drop him under the bus with no notice. He did a great job of taking over when I was trying to fix something. I forget what.
Okay. Moving along to the Navigation Center.
Sarai, are you here?
I am here. Hello.
Oh, there. Hi, Sarai.
So let me introduce Sarai Johnson, who works for the county and who is working with us to develop a process for our involvement in opening up the Navigation Center that is going to be on River Avenue. With that introduction, I'll turn it over to you, and you have up to 15 minutes should you choose to use it, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. Is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yes, I will stop sharing mine. Do you have a share screen thing, or do I have to rehost you?
I do have a share screen thing. Oh, it
Okay.
says host disabled participant screen sharing. So I don't know if that's something you can.
That means I have to make you a co-host. Okay.
Fancy.
There you go.
Power.
It worked. You're a miracle worker, Claire. Thank you.
Ah.
Yay. Okay. Great. Well, thank you everybody for having me today. I appreciate you giving me some time on your agenda. I wanted to give you all just a quick overview. I know that not all of you were on the board last time I came around, which was like October, I think, when we were talking about this last. So I wanted to make sure everyone here has a chance to get to know what the Navigation Center is. And then I'll introduce you to what we're calling a community agreement. In the past, we've called that a good neighbor agreement, but agreed that we'd like to kind of keep that qualifier out of good because it's hard to define. And we really want to make sure that we're creating a inclusive and welcoming place for folks to go. So what the Navigation Center is a low barrier shelter. So it isn't a drop-in center. It's not a day use center. It's a place where people will be living for a period of time. And they're able to bring in, by kind of what we mean generally by low barrier, is that people don't have to meet prerequisites for behavior or treatments or anything like that, but they are also able to bring their partners. So partners can stay together. Each partner will have their own housing strategy plan, and then partners of any gender are also welcome in the facility. So there's 4 different sleeping pods, and our service provider will be able to use those in a variety of ways. People can also keep their possessions, so they can bring their items with them to a point. Of course, we'll have limited storage, but overall, people will still be able to have access to their things inside near their beds, and also they'll have some space outside for longer term storage for larger items. And then finally, people can bring their pets as well. So that will also have some limitations on it per the provider, but it will allow cats and dogs and for people to be able to stay with those creatures that they love. It's for adults who are over 18, and it's for all genders. It's for people who are currently living in a place not meant for human habitation, or for short, unsheltered folks. About 90-ish% of our population of people who experience houselessness in our community are unsheltered, meaning that they don't have adequate shelter. They're sleeping outside or in an RV or another place that's not really meant for them to live in. Folks who are awaiting housing. So this is a referral-based process. people will be referred to the navigation center if they kind of meet these different criteria. And they also will be first in line, or the people who are prioritized anyway, for permanent supportive housing and other resources that come through the housing system. We also will have capacity for 75 people. And ultimately, we are working to help each of these folks design and work out a plan for getting and staying in permanent housing. And so ultimately, we're trying to help kind of keep that process moving forward for folks. We're doing this to remove barriers to housing. People who have experienced homelessness or houselessness for a long period of time tend to have many barriers to housing. This program is designed to meet them where they're at and help them remove those barriers at the pace that works for them. Ultimately, we'd like to expedite exits to housing from homelessness, which is one of the challenging things in our current system, and then ultimately to increase housing stability. So reducing the number of people who exit from permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing, and rather work really hard to keep people housed as much as we possibly can. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. And one of the ways that we're doing that is by partnering with different entities. So we have found an organization to run the navigation center. They're called Equitable Social Solutions. They're not from our area, but they have run similar programs in a number of locations throughout the US. We're all really excited to welcome them to our community, and we have great hopes for them and realize that they might be able to help us add some capacity to our pretty stretched service network. So that will be exciting to have them in. And then of course, we're working with River Road Community Organization, yourselves, and Santa Clara as well on this community agreement. And we'd love to kind of continue to flesh that out with you all. And then of course, we have the county, City of Eugene. We will be working with 4J around North Eugene, and then we will also reach out to specific neighbors, all of whom are within 1,000 feet or so of the facility. And last time we talked about this the other day, John asked whether that could be expanded for certain businesses that might be impacted. And of course, the answer is yes, we can do that. So that's kind of the idea. We're hoping to continue to partner with y'all on the outreach side. We know that we've had River Road Community Organization help us spearhead that kind of outreach in the past. And it works really well to have neighbors talking to neighbors about these kinds of programs. So really quickly, I just want to give you a sense of what's in the the community agreement. And so a couple of things that we'll ultimately get to is a program overview. I think that John sent you the most recent version of this that we have, which is a little bit choppy, so forgive the formatting. I'll go through and do an update on it this week, a little bit later in the week. The values of this are that we believe all individuals, regardless of their housing status or the barriers they might have to permanent housing, deserve to be treated with dignity, respect, and support in meeting their individual housing goals. So we're looking to find ways to help people find a place to be that's safe for them and that helps them to stabilize their lives, and then for them to also become a part of the community and the neighborhood that they're in a positive way as they're able to do that. So we're looking to welcome them in and make it easy for them to be successful. One of the parts of that is also going to be showing you all the participant agreement that Equitable Social Solutions typically uses with participants in their programs. I haven't received that document yet, which is the only reason why you don't have it. But as soon as I get it, I'll share it with John and you all. So the background on this, we have specific boundaries and location for this, which again is that 1,000 foot radius. Typically, we will have some interests outside of that radius that we also will identify in this. Pardon me, there's just only a helicopter flying outside my window. No big deal. I hope that's not too loud. We are talking, the purpose of this is to acknowledge that neighbors might experience some impacts potentially from this. We're not expecting major impacts in the neighborhood, but we want to make sure that people know who to call or where to go if something does come up or if somebody's concerned about something that they're seeing. This document is not a legally binding document, but it is one that all parties review and uphold and update in good faith. And so that will be kind of the foundation of what this ends up looking like. And then we've got our kind of goals. We want to articulate and make sure that everyone understands how what we're agreeing to and how those agreements will be honored. We want to create and foster that positive, respectful relationship between the Navigation Center, River Road Community Organization, Santa Clara, Equitable Social Solutions, and other signing parties. Ultimately, we'd love to maximize the way that we're collaborating together to improve neighborhood safety, livability, and quality of life for everybody. And while this will also identify, some of the challenges that folks who might enter into the center might experience, we also want to affirm the basic rights of everyone in the community, including residents of the center, as well as, of course, everyone else who already lives here, which is personal safety, privacy, access to services, and basic needs. I know this part's really fun, like so exciting to read through the goals of a document. Just some of the principles on these agreements is to work cooperatively, to uphold mutual respect for all parties, carry out the agreements that we set together, participate in problem solving and set a table for that to happen, identify root causes and understand the root causes of the challenges that are happening, support direct civil communication using the protocols outlined in the document, and then notify parties of changes, updates, and any personnel changes that would impact being able to collaborate this way. And then ultimately a value of law enforcement as the last resort. We do plan to have agreements in place with cahoots and potentially other resources so that we don't have to rely on law enforcement or emergency services as much as we can avoid that. And then ultimately another piece of this puzzle will be to develop a community advisory committee, ? That was mostly for our core team planning for this, but ultimately this advisory committee would be responsible for kind of maintaining these agreements, making sure that they're adhered to. It would include relatively diverse membership of the agreed upon parties, including somebody designated from your board, from the Santa Clara board, certainly having the Equitable Social Solutions program manager as a part of that, a representative from City of Eugene and from Lane County on our shelter coordinator, and then as well as space for a person or more than one persons who are living at the Navigation Center or who have lived there in the past. And so we want to make sure that we have every voice at the table, including people who have a stake in the center as a resident or a guest. And this would also serve as a communication hub. So making sure that people are informed about what's going on, support any kinds of calls for help around asking for information and things like that, and et cetera, et cetera. And then we have a few more sections of this that I'm not going into great detail today, but you do have a copy, again, like a pretty drafty copy of this that we're presenting and kind of considering. I will get you a new version of it between now and your June meeting so that it's clearer, and I'm sure we'll have a little bit of back and forth about what's in it and what we want to make sure we're including. So it will also have information about communication, how we're keeping the neighborhood clean and appealing, commitment to that community safety pieces, the community safety piece, the neighborhood climate, more around like kind of what kind of culture are people coming into and how can we support that? And then just some of the basics on how we administer the agreement and who's involved in that. So those are kind of the big pieces of our attempts to create a community agreement for the Navigation Center as a way for us to set expectations, provide resources, and make sure again that people who are entering into the community as newcomers have a place to go, and also so that we're helping folks out who might have questions or concerns as the Navigation Center starts to open. You're muted, John.
Thank you. I was just going to tell you, take a deep breath, and shall we go to questions? Okay, hands up. Let's see. I see Susan first.
Yeah, hi, Sarai. Nice to meet you. I'm Susan. I'm a new member of the board. Could you help me understand? I heard you say that cahoots is going to be involved, but it's my understanding, and I'm new to the neighborhood, so like 6 months in the neighborhood. It's my understanding that we don't get cahoots support in the neighborhood. So I'd really like to understand that, because if I see somebody walking down the street and they're from the Navigation Center, I don't know if they're from the Navigation Center. How do I know to call cahoots versus to call someone else? So I'm very concerned about that piece. I'd love to get your feedback.
Yeah, that's the one we've been talking about quite a lot through the whole process of planning this facility because of that reality of the kind of patchworky nature of what's in the city and what's not in the city over in that part of town. So yeah, I think so to be really honest, we're really just starting those conversations with Cahoots, but I do anticipate that the county is probably going to have to create some kind of fund for this specific location to support folks in this. So that, yeah, it will be hard to differentiate. I think that's part of what, you know, does make this a little bit trickier, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Susan, because to be honest, I think that's a big piece that we'll have to work out in that piece, that part around community safety and the safety of all of the people in the community. Yeah, so.
It's my biggest concern, to be
Lots of-
candid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, that's fair.
Jackie,
Are there any other centers like this in the Eugene or Lane County area, or is this, am I understanding this is the first kind of its kind in our area?
Yes, it is the first of its kind in our area. So in our community, we haven't had a fully public shelter or a low barrier shelter really. And so this is our first one and is kind of the first real deep venture between the city of Eugene and Lane County as well, on the work that they're doing together on making homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. So this will be a pretty important part of that plan, ultimately to kind of ease up the speed with which people move through their experience of houselessness. And also, again, as I mentioned, to increase their success in housing after they're done with the program too.
Well, exciting.
I
Yeah.
guess I would add that there are several successful examples throughout the country that I'm sure Sarai is looking to for how to
Yes.
do it better or how to do it well in the first place.
That's right. Yeah.
Claire?
Yeah, I've been recently consulting with Everyone Village and learning more about this population. And so that community center is more selective in who can stay there. And yet they have, you know, people that they have to expel. And so I'm assuming that some people who come through there are going to have issues that are going to be disruptive. And so I want to know, what does low bar mean in that respect?
Sure. So the low barrier piece partly has to do with those 3 Ps of partners, possessions, and pets. So we're really kind of trying to make it easier for people to say yes to shelter. One of the barriers sometimes for folks entering shelter is that they aren't able to take those things, and that does make it harder for them to do it. And or most of the shelters, well, the one that we've used the most in our community, I guess, for the longest, Eugene Mission, does have gender separation. And so it is, you know, people aren't able to stay with the person they come in with all the time and things like that. So so those are the main ways. The other way that we're referring people in is through what's called the centralized wait list, which is part of the Continuum of Care's coordinated entry system, which I'm just digging straight into like full HUD jargon. So forgive me because it's not the most fun. But that will be a combination of scoring, which is currently done through a standardized assessment that every front door assessor uses throughout the community, which is a way that people get kind of basically get in line for allocation of resources based on their vulnerability score, vulnerability index score. So that's how we'll be selecting people. And that will be also combined with case conferencing, which is where folks who work at different programs who might interact with the same person work together to help support them in their housing goals and get them what they need. So this would be essentially like who might be a good fit, or here's all the people that are at the NAV Center right now. You know, does this person have a history with any of these folks? Like what, you know, what can we do to make them most successful? So whether the NAV Center is the right place for them or not, that's going to be part of the conversation too.
So if the couples come in and they have violent screaming fights and stuff like that, that are not against, that are against the rules, how do you manage that?
So that's a great question. I wish our service provider was here.
Yeah.
So some of those pieces will likely be addressed in the participant agreement that they already use. And I'd be more than happy to have them with us at the next board or next general meeting that you all have or board. I don't know which one, John, we're supposed to do, but
Right.
yeah, wherever it is, but they would be better to answer those operational questions for sure. I will tell you that they certainly will be managing things like that. So it's not going to be a place where there's like just a free for all. There's certainly will be
Oh,
rules,
no, yeah.
expectations and agreements and stuff. So
And one more, if you'll, if it's okay. Do residents, people who come into the navigation center, do they also sign off on the community agreement?
yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So everyone that enters they'll have their agreements with the service provider and with each other inside the center. And they'll also be signing on to this community agreement to be a responsible, respectful community member too.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Running a little bit late, but Carlene and Pat asked, will there be a possible to have a bike share location at that site? Something we talked about last week at our general meeting.
Cool.
So something to put on your to-do list. I have a request, and that is we're going to be doing a fairly extensive outreach to neighbors in the next month or so. The Chamber of Commerce has agreed to help us, but it would be nice if any of you are interested in doing that as well. If you would raise your hand now and I'll collect your names.
Who is we?
We, the River Road Community Organization.
Oh,
And
this is new
Claire.
information to me. Okay.
Well, sorry. And then, yeah, and it's possible we could have Sarai come and talk to our next general meeting and fill folks in as well. We've got a long list of possible topics, but we'll let you know, Sarai. And with that, thank you so much for all you're doing. And we will continue to have fun together. Remember,
Thank you,
raise those
John.
hands, folks. Thank you, Sarai.
I'll put my contact information in the chat.
Great,
before I
thank you, Sarai.
take off.
Do we have a timeline for completing this agreement, signing off, et cetera?
Sarai, do you have a better startup date now?
Yeah, well, so we're on Tuesday next week, the 24th, the Board of County Commissioners will be approving the contract with Equitable Social Solutions. And so as soon as we have that in place, we'll be able to get started in earnest. So I believe we'll be looking to get this hammered out over the next 6 weeks. The Navigation Center itself was originally scheduled to open in July, as of July 1st. However, due to many different exciting construction issues, mainly just supply chain stuff, we will probably be looking at mid-August. And so between now and then, we're looking to kind of get out and meet with people and help people understand what's going on and get prepared for that, including feeding the neighborhood, or rather the community agreement, with their input. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarai. Misty, thanks for volunteering. I got your name. Anybody else, please let me know. Okay. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule. Can I insert that motion I had asked for to authorize the Willamette Greenway Committee to advocate in our favor in opposition to removing the easement through Willamette, the Greenway Apartments?
Do you need someone to articulate that motion?
Would someone say, I move what John just said?
I'm not seeing hands here. Do we have hands up?
Are you waiting for a second or a hot thumbs?
I need, Dan has pointed out that chairs can't make motions.
Oh.
So I need someone to make the motion first.
Tell me what you want me to say.
Okay, let me try this again. I move that we approve the Willamette Greenways Committee's opposition to the vacation of the public easement at 785 River Road and land use decision.
I can't remember all of that.
Just say
say
that's
what
what I
John
want to
said.
say. Yeah, what John
Ditto.
said.
Ditto, okay.
There you go.
Echo. Thank you.
Now we need a second.
A second. Jackie.
Okay,
Thank you.
any discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What are we agreeing to? What is this
Yeah.
motion for?
Let me
I'm a
try
little
this again.
confused.
A little
John,
bit
the
of
word
history.
vacate is confusing. I think if you just could just say end, it would be more direct.
Well, that's the language in the application, but okay. Little bit of history. last year, first of all, the apartments are at the corner of Park and River Road on the east side. There's an easement through there that allows public access to connect to go to the bike path. It was there prior to the people buying the property. They didn't like the easement. They felt it was unsafe for their residents, so they locked it. And we fought for 6 months in order to get that opened up again. They're coming back around now and asking the city to give up that easement so that they can lock it again. And the committee for the Greenway would like to testify in opposition to that, but because they're a committee, we have to approve that action. And this motion approves allowing the committee to oppose the relocking of the gate. Is that simple enough?
Yeah, that makes sense. It didn't before. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was using legalese.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't even know what your subject was. It was very hard to understand.
okay. Thank you. So Misty, have you still moved that?
So I want the public to have access. So
Okay.
would that still be in what I was going for there?
Okay, so you did make the motion, and Jackie, is your second still good? Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, use your participant to raise your hand in favor.
Oops.
That's fine. I can see it, Misty. I can see it, Misty.
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
Not that
Yes, sir.
not that I don't have an opinion on this, because I clearly do. And I think everyone would know what that would be. But I don't know where this is going to fall in my little world, so I have to abstain. Just making sure everyone understands why.
No, I think, yeah, Dan, because you are a planning commissioner, you probably should abstain. And I don't know why I'm duplicating here, but at any rate, Dan, it won't come to you anyway. It's a decision of the hearings official. And actually, you would be the appeal body. So good thing you're abstaining. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Misty, you raised your hand in favor. So the vote is 8 in favor, none opposed, and Dan abstaining for the record. It passes. Thank you. Well, thanks for letting me jump that in there. So back to the regular agenda. Project prioritization, Susan and Stefan.
All right, can I have the ability to share screen?
Okay. Maybe not.
Right.
There you go.
Which actually came from our board meeting. As y'all may recall, at the board retreat, we had a brainstorming session where we did a start, stop, continue action. And in that action, we created a list of priorities that people were interested in potentially doing as part of the River Road Community Organization Board and our core priorities, because there were a lot of new ideas suggested and not a lot of ideas taken away. We felt that it was important for us to be able to go in and prioritize a little bit more in depth. So what we did was we asked each of the folks on the board to take a look at the full list. And I asked you all to select your top 5 votes, like the top 5 things out of the priorities. And I do have in this deck, which I will post on the share later, I do have a full list of everything that was initially looked at, so y'all can see that full list. But the things that got the most votes that we're the most interested in was instituting a neighborhood recycling event, which, by the way, we did discuss briefly on last Monday, and that also received some pretty significant support in the chat in the general meeting. And we had 3 people volunteer to potentially help with that. So I'm reaching out to those folks for a neighborhood recycling event initiative as part of the 245 initiative. The second thing that we voted on was instituting surveys and canvassing for input from residents. And that was very popular, also 5 of 9 votes. We do not yet have a plan in place on how we would go about doing that. I think there was a lot of discussion with some agreements recently, and the broader neighborhood organization doing some surveys that we were going to get some information on. So I think it might behoove us to look into that. The next thing was quarterly board retreats, and I noticed that Claire has that on the agenda to set that for next. So it sounds like that's a done deal, and we're all pretty much in favor of that. 4 was business, education, and religious outreach. And that was really how can we do more to support the businesses, the educators, and the various temples, churches, et cetera, in the neighborhood. And finally, we had 3 of 9 votes to drive more awareness of our neighborhood plan. And that is the plan that we are hoping to get resolved between now and next winter. So those were the priorities that we as a board selected. John and Stefan, you both have your hand up. Do you want me to keep going, or do you have a question beforehand? Okay.
I don't know why mine is up, but it's not now.
No worries, no worries. So the next thing we heard was from the feedback in last week's session, and it really was a good conversation. Thank you, Stefan, for sending us the information from the chat. I did not have a chance to go through the full meeting video that you had shared, or the meeting notes, but I did get these general themes from my notes as well as from the chat that you sent over. Stefan, if you see anything I've missed, please let me know. But there were 4 key themes that we heard from the residents last week who participated in the general meeting. One was really around nature, neighborhood beautification, and fitness. I kind of lumped those all together because it's really all about, you know, our environment around us. And fitness, I popped in because the bike share stations, which was a great idea. That was also suggested by the young lady, Sherry. And I'm excited to see that as a suggestion tonight. In the suggestions, there was a lot of requests for work parties, and I know that those have been done in the past as part of the invasive species control, et cetera. There was also a request for pickleball courts. Not sure how we would go about doing that one, but I liked the suggestion. And support for more efforts around parking with regards to the neighborhood. Second main thing was River Road safety, which is something that we are already very active in doing in our efforts with in the past, and trying to get more crosswalks put in, et cetera. Social, a lot of folks looking for neighborhood events. Neighborhood picnic was requested to come back, and people were very positive at the idea of social media. And then there was also a request for some mental health forums. So I'm sharing these various topics as we are moving into our committee conversations. I think it's important for us to recognize that we can't do everything. There are a lot of things that we're already doing, and we have committees that are in place that might be legacy committees. So as we are thinking through and going through the process of defining what committees we want to put in place, I do think it's very important that we think about these priority actions that we discussed as a board, and that while I know we don't like the idea of a start, stop, continue, stopping anything, we also have to be cognizant of the support we have in the community and the support we have on the board, and the ability to be able to do these things effectively. So on that note, I'd like to kind of just get people's thoughts on these priority actions. Again, this is the feedback from all of you, and it can be reflected in the committee meetings. Of the 5 that were voted on by the board, there are 2 that are already in action, the board retreats and the neighborhood recycling events. The other 3, I do believe that there are needs for potentially specific committees or specific efforts that are not in place today. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Stefan.
Yes, can you go back to the previous slide?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the under nature neighborhood beautification, the neighborhood plan support parking, I think, was especially focused on apartment buildings, like the Echo development. I don't think it was a general parking, so might want to make a note of that.
Okay, that's good feedback. Thank you.
And I guess that's all I had on that. I would just say that I think I would give a lot more weight to what came out of our retreat with the neighborhood leaders who have been, working on this. It was valuable to have the brainstorming session at the general meeting, but that wasn't nearly as thought through, and was sort of ad hoc and just off the cuff. So, I don't take that input as being nearly as important as what came out of our retreat. And that's all.
Thank you, Stefan. Does anybody else have any? Chelsea?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that my recollection of our vote at the retreat was that our suggestions of what our priorities might be. There were a couple of people at least who talked in terms of getting some project management software that we can track. All right, so there's this management administrative part as well
Yes.
that I don't see reflected there.
That's a very good point, Chelsea. And I did not reflect that in these pieces. There were some management pieces that were discussed that we kind of felt were individual things that we could do without having to create committees or recruit individuals to kind of support us.
Mhm.
So we put those to the side, and I'm happy to pop those up. I can pull them in. But I think there were some of those things like the software, like doing some great updates to the website that Joshua assisted you with, like the ability to add Spanish language, etc. Some of those things are one-time things that we could do, and we did not put, I did not put here because I was specifically focusing on areas that would require committee support or other community support, like a board or board member outreach, etc. Does that make sense? I'm happy to put them in.
I guess I was perhaps tuned out when you were explaining it all, but so this list is not to include those things.
This list is the things that would require committees or
Committee.
major actions by the group that don't exist today.
Okay,
That's what we were looking for, because this was really more of the start list, the additional start list. And again, there was a list of items that was identified. I'm sorry, I don't have those here. I can quickly pull them up. But there
just don't
are
want
some
them-
one-time things.
yeah, I just don't want them lost in the.
I agree. I agree. Valid. Claire?
So there are some things that have to be done regardless of how many people voted for them. And I'm thinking specifically about work on the neighborhood plan. So I was wondering if people who are on that neighborhood plan committee could speak to that, how that fits into this prioritization process.
I'll say that as one person that has agreed to be on that committee, I think it's basically that if it's one of the top 5 items, I think that we should consider it an item to do. We all agreed that this was one that's important. I was surprised to see that it only got 3 of 9 votes, but it is something that we know we have to do as part of our obligation to the city. So I think that we need to be having a neighborhood plan committee or continuing on that.
I'm wondering if we need to have any discussion about that vote, about that prioritization. What are people's thoughts about that? But we maybe don't have time for that now, but.
Well, my suggestion was going to be that the committee vote actually can be the way that we do the voting, because if we don't agree to put these committees in place, then we're not going to be able to do these actions. That was my initial suggestion based on the committee agenda came out.
So
Stefan?
can I?
Yeah, John?
No, let Stefan go. I'll catch
Okay,
up.
Stefan.
Yeah. Just one more thing. The business education and religious outreach is fine, but I thought at the retreat there was a lot of support for outreach to the minority communities, especially the Latinx communities, and I'd like to see that captured. And I'm also a little concerned if the website Spanish is an automated Spanish program. Those are often not really very good. And so I'm wondering, I know Misty knows Spanish, but I'm wondering if there could be someone who actually knows Spanish idioms and ways of expressing things, who can also
So
review that before, because
a
I know
great input.
Spanish
I think we
speakers
can
who
do it.
think,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that that's something we can look into, Stefan. I think that we're trying to solve the problem with as minimal personal
Yeah.
time as humanly possible, because we just don't have a lot of volunteers.
right, but
So-
putting something out in Spanish that's
Hey.
gonna offend people or not,
Sure. Well, what we'll
not
do,
meet their
why don't we do
needs
this?
is bad.
We can do a test of it. And if you are a Spanish speaker and you're comfortable reviewing that in the timelines that we need to, we're happy to, or anybody who's comfortable doing so, we are happy to get y'all visibility into that. I think it's a great point, Stefan. We just have to find a way to do it without tasking more people.
Yeah, I don't know enough Spanish to do that, but we ought to, we should try to find a couple of native Spanish speakers, or at least one who can review
Great.
it for us.
If you can help us find that person, that would be phenomenal, because we'll finish focusing on the finishing of the newsletter. If you can help us find that individual, that'd be great.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. John.
Sorry, no, my apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Just wanted to speak to the neighborhood plan. Yeah, it's going to be a heavy lift between now and then when we're done, which is theoretically by the end of winter. However, a lot of the neighborhood plan is getting agreement with the city to create the mechanisms to do what we're trying to do here. So it's gonna cost us a bit early, but it might make it a lot easier to do what we want to do later. And yeah, we're gonna have to do it.
Great. Charlie?
Yeah, I just saw a note from Misty in the chat saying that she is a native speaker in Spanish. And actually, I wanted to just say, Misty, we're going to need you this week. There's a piece in the newsletter that is going to need to be translated into Spanish, and could really use your help. Thank you.
Perfect. And I'm sorry, I want to make sure I addressed all the other questions. Dan, did you have a question?
Yeah, my sister-in-law is from Monterey, and I'm sure she wouldn't have a problem if we want to call in a favor to have her do the same thing. But it sounds like Misty can take care of it too. So we have a backup if we need to.
That's awesome. Stefan, did you have another question, or is that your hand up from before? So basically what we are hoping to be able to accomplish now as we move into the committee conversation is keeping this in mind, which of these initiatives will fall into existing committees. The neighborhood and recycling event will not fall into an existing committee, that as far as I can tell from the list of committees that already existed. However, I am happy as a master recycler to help lead that initiative, because it's something I do already as part of the master recycler effort. Surveys and canvassing, there's been a lot of discussion, but we do not have a committee or a plan on how to do that as of yet. Quarterly board retreats, as we mentioned, Claire's already started that. And then the other two elements, the business education and religious outreach. I hear your feedback, Stefan, on the other piece. Those weren't mentioned in the written notes or in the notes that we took. So I get your feedback on the additional groups that would like to get additional outreach. And then on the neighborhood plan awareness, as John mentioned, that's going to be something for everyone. So really, it's a matter of, as we're looking at this, and then as we look at the other additional items, we just want to make sure that we have plans in place for not just what we want to accomplish, but how we're going to accomplish them. So I just encourage us all to keep that in mind as we're thinking about committees, make sure that we're all willing to sign up and participate and help versus signing up for to do too much and then not do enough, not doing it as well as we want to. So that's it from me. John, we'll head it back to you. And I guess the next was the committee conversation.
Okay, thank you. So this is motion number 7 in the consent calendar that we pulled out. And basically what it is a brainstorming that Claire primarily did with a little bit of help from me And what we propose to do is go down the list of our standing committees and see if we're comfortable with the way they're set up and actually propose to get rid of some. So if it's all right with you, why don't I put up that part of the agenda?
Okay, and while you're doing that, in the charter, the people who have voting privileges in a committee are those whose names have been designated by the board. So this list says who's on that committee, and that's just an important detail to be aware of. Clearly, that can change, but we ran into that with the Social Justice Committee about, well, who has the right to vote here? So that's an important detail.
So keep vamping while I try to find this thing.
I have it up if you want me to do it.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Thank you.
And
Okay.
Claire, I have a quick question on what you just said, the right to vote in a committee meeting or the right to vote about this conversation?
In a
Right here.
committee meeting,
Okay.
committee meeting. Yeah. So,
Thank you, Claire.
I'm not sure how this is showing up for you guys. Okay.
There, that's good. So if it's all right, Claire, you can scroll after I work my way through these.
Okay.
So the first one is the Finances Committee, and we had said that that would consist of the treasurer and the co-chairs. And Claire rightfully pointed out that the treasurer is supposed to report to the board monthly on what status of our report. We had put this in place in hopes that we'd have better connection with our previous treasurer. We don't have that treasurer.
John,
so-
you're going to have to be more concise for time reasons and because people have already read this. Just reminder.
Okay, I think what Claire is suggesting I say is we don't think we need this committee and we'd like to remove it. So does anyone feel the need for this committee? Charles?
No, I don't feel there's a need necessarily for that committee, but I do think maybe at our retreat, I would like us to hear about how budgeting and how our finances works.
Okay,
I don't understand it. And I think that would be something we should all be conversant with.
okay,
Idea.
okay. Retreat, got it. So without objection, we will sunset this committee and discuss finances at our next retreat. The next one is the RRCO Resilience Working Group. This is a committee consisting of one person who was once on the board, is not now. That person will continue to do, Jan will continue to do the good work that it is, but it does seem out of place as a committee for the neighborhood, especially given that it's a one-person task. So without objection, we will remove that one, or shall we have discussion? Raise your hand if you want to discuss. Okay. Seeing nothing there, we will remove that committee. The third one is listed as Neighborhood Leaders Council, and that's also not a committee. We have a representative for the NLC that we appoint. We will do that later as agenda item number 7. So we suggest that we also remove that as a committee. Anybody wish to comment? Okay, it's gone. Okay, we'll move on to the standing committees. First is the Emergency Preparedness Team. I think we all knew the great work they're doing. The chair and board liaison is Jackie. The list that we have of members, I think, is incomplete. It's Jackie, Charles C. and Misty, and I know you've got more members than that. But Jackie, would you like to speak to whatever you might want to say about that committee, including members?
I would. So we meet monthly and we, for probably the last year now, have been meeting in conjunction with Santa Clara and the Bethel neighborhood as well, because we all share geographic similarities, and that's where the volunteers have come from every month. So we don't collect everybody's attendance every month in that meeting. We have never had any votes within that emergency preparedness team, so we've never asked anybody to vote on anything. Charles and I meet with the other leaders from Santa Clara and Bethel to plan all of those monthly meetings every month. So I guess in a sense, we make the decisions on what the content is going to be, what we're going to talk about. But we've never really talked about maintaining membership in that committee or being a part of it. Our goal is to really share our information as far and wide as we can possibly reach it. So we don't really have the same structure in that committee that we do on other committees. And I'm open to feedback on that if that's something that we need to change. That's just not how we've been doing it so far.
Gotcha. Actually, there's a parallel with that with the Homeless Action Committee, which also has membership outside the neighborhood. So I agree. There needs to be a better way to deal with how you guys operate rather than what the charter says. So you have a thought about that, Claire or Charles?
Well, yeah, I think that this is a good evolution for community activism, and that we should have something maybe in the charter review about collaboration with other committees. It could even just be a line in the description that this committee is a collaboration with the other something.
Okay.
But this list doesn't say anything about reporting or voting or anything.
Well, and if there's the old mantra, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to try to fit the Emergency Preparedness Committee into what the charter requires. We should have the charter be flexible to deal with committees such as this.
Yeah.
So shall we leave things the way they are, not worry about membership, and realize that Jackie is our chair and liaison, and let it go at that?
Well, my motion is to add a line in there saying this committee collaborates with the other neighborhood association committees or
Okay.
meets with them or something.
Can we do that without objection rather than having a motion? If everyone's comfortable with that.
That's fine with me.
Chelsea, you've been waiting to speak. Is it to this?
Yeah, yes, it is. I was just going to underscore that it sounds like another thing that we might want to modify on the charter, that it's not too prescriptive. This is a model that seems to be working. We work with consensus on our decision making. It's just never become a big issue to have to vote and so on. So I'd hate for that to interfere. I like your suggestion, John, that we repeat that we're a collaborative model.
Got it. So without objection, we'll work towards that and see what we need to do to change the charter to make that not be in conflict with the charter. Okay. Social Justice Committee, another very successful group that has some problems, had problems for membership in the past. So who would like to speak to that, Claire?
I don't have anything more to say about it.
So is this member list sufficient?
At the moment, however, we did at our last meeting tell people they need to let us know if they want to be official members. So we might have some adjustments to the list, which
Okay.
means that maybe we need to figure out what is the process for changing the list when it needs to be simple. And I
Okay.
see Susan's hand is up.
Yeah, hi. I just, I was questioning a little bit of the language that's under this social justice committee language. I had a conversation with my mother-in-law, and she had mentioned to me that there was some discussion around changing that to have it represent specific,
Yes.
traditionally marginalized communities.
Hillary, if I
something to
could
that
just
effect?
speak to that the mission, we did in our last meeting discuss rewording the mission, and so there will be an adjustment in that. And Hillary's contribution was very valuable in that.
Great.
So
I just wanted to reflect that. Perfect.
yeah, so again, it comes back to how do these things get changed easily as committees evolve?
Well, hopefully it's as simple as putting in the consent calendar.
Okay, so that's still in process. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're good for that one, I think. Neighborhood plan. we've already talked about this and we're going to talk about it further. The current members of the Neighborhood Plan Committee, which is somewhat duplicative of the Citizen Advisory Committee that we have with the city. Anyhow, that seems fairly straightforward to me. Is that okay with everybody, or are there any questions or comments? Okay, and then we also do include the names of the RRCO CAC members. And I did mention in red there that we're supposed to have these members, and then we're also supposed to have an alternate. I'm missing somebody who's a member, but at any rate, at some point in time, we hopefully will come back. We need, as a board, need to determine if we need an alternate for the CAC, who that alternate would be. And given that Susan's already expressed an interest, I'm going to be twisting your arm later. Anyhow, enough of that. Here's that other one, the North Eugene Unhoused and Affordable Housing Committee. This is a committee that we also work across outside the neighborhood, and several of the members that you see listed here are not, including Betty Grant twice, I see, are not actually neighbors. So I think what we said for the Emergency Response Committee will be true for this too. We need to find a way to define the membership in a way that's congruent with the charter by changing the charter. Okay.
I'd like to see that mission description a little bit more evolved by the committee for future reference.
Okay. Evolve the charter.
Yeah.
Okay. The Land Use Committee consists of myself, Dan, Stefan, and Dwight. It's not as active as it should be, and that's my responsibility, and I intend to make it more active. Generally, I just take the issues and bring them to the board as appropriate, but we need to make this a more active and effective community. I apologize and accept responsibility for doing better for that. But does anyone else have any other comments? This is how we keep track of proposed land use actions and respond to those as a neighborhood association where appropriate, and inform neighbors of what's going on. Any concerns or thoughts?
This is Susan. I don't fully understand. How is that a committee? If you're just bringing it to the board and we're discussing it at the board, it's not really a committee.
What I was trying to say is I need to make it do more than it's doing now.
Okay, but that's a start. And so that the only thing I'm going to indicate is that you're asking for a new thing to be added here that wasn't part of the priority discussion. So I think that we should have a conversation about if we want to make this land use piece a bigger piece, then that's, again, you're going to be tapping into more resources on the board. And again, we have limited resources. So that's just the one concern I have.
I agree, but it's also a charge we have in the charter. And frankly, it's a fairly important one. I mean, we have to have a way to keep people from taking away our public accesses, et cetera. But your point is well taken, Susan. So I will meet with these folks that are on this committee in the next month and come back with a discussion, keeping your concern in mind as well, Susan.
Thank you.
Communications and outreach. Claire, I'll let you speak to this one as well. And I would point out that this may be the place where a lot of those start doings might end up, such as doing outreach.
Right. So, you know, we've kind of had, this is a bucket that a lot of things that get thrown into. So I feel like maybe we need to have a committee meeting and sort out, you know, is it all in the same bucket, or are there subcommittees? And in the past, we've talked about, is outreach in the same bucket as communications? So under communications would be the newsletters, the webpage, the social media, and under outreach would be building relationships with different sectors of the community. And things like the survey and what you call it, canvassing would be in the outreach also, I assume. So I need some input on that because it's a lot. It's too much for yeah.
I agree. I'm sorry. I know I'm on top of the list, so I'm chiming in. I agree, Claire. It's so much. I think we should separate communications / marketing from outreach, because I think that the surveys and the canvassing are really important. And that in and of itself is very different than just the basic marketing of our initiatives. We have set up a new social webpage. We've set up a new social for Instagram. We're going to try to get to be more active in that arena, but I think it's just too much to try to do the newsletters, the emails, flyers, marketing events, social, and also try to lead the outreach with just one committee.
Yeah, and when we do things like have social media presence, someone needs to be on top of it and be posting and be responding. I think in the past we have a Facebook page, but nobody ever checks it, that kind of thing. So if we want to really do it, we should really do it. Otherwise we should drop it, is in my opinion. So my proposal is that we have a meeting of everybody interested in any of the above items in the bucket and sort that out.
Okay.
Charles C., did you have a question?
I have a comment. I'd like my name added to this since I'm working on it so much.
Very good.
And I agree with splitting it, and I look forward to the conversation.
Okay. So I will go ahead and convene that meeting for that discussion sometime before the end of the month.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have the neighborhood enhancement team. Everybody agrees that this is a really vital team. It's been very exciting in the past for ways for neighborhoods to meet each other and work together on the riverfront. And really all it needs at this point is someone to head it up and champion it. Maybe neighborhood enhancement team isn't the right name for it. It could be riverfront stewardship. It could be, however you want to define it, but is anybody interested in being the lead for that? It's probably the most fun committee in the whole organization.
However, I would also point out that it's net, and that when we get to St. Vincent de Paul's neighborhood engagement team, it's also net. So
Yeah.
a new name might be a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to focus on getting that up and running, because we have a responsibility to the city before they start coming and spraying our plants because we're not active.
And this was also one of the, voted upon priorities.
Well, let's table it till next meeting, I guess.
I'm interested. Sorry, I was trying to raise my hand.
Go ahead, Misty.
I was just saying you could add me on there, or I would like to be a part of the discussion on furthering it. Anyway.
Okay.
And
you.
I would point out that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a board member to lead it. This might be something that an active member of the community would take up as a leadership opportunity.
Good point. Shall we move to ad hoc committees? Ad hoc means that they don't last forever. Once their job is done, they go away. And we've already talked about the Good Neighbor Agreement Committee. You know who they are, or what it does, and what it intends to do. I think once the center is up and running, the agreements in place, it should be a relatively small responsibility just to serve as the response team when issues arise in the future. For now, next month or two, it's going to be working hard and heavy. So that's myself. Lisa Levson, I confirmed with her today, she's still interested. Misty Frost, thank you, Misty, and Dwight Owens from the Homeless Activity Committee as well. So we might be calling on you for more help in the short run, but in the long run, that should fade. St. Vincent de Paul Neighborhood Engagement Team. That committee has been run by Pat Riley with Julie Hume as the other committee member. They did a lot of heavy lifting over the past several months to get St. Vinny's Irish Place program up and running. And I think we need to have a discussion about how we want to interact with the residents of that site in the future. And also keep in mind, they have made it possible for us, the possibility for us to be able to meet at their place as well. So having said that, Pat, you want to add some more?
Well, I don't have much to add, I guess. I mean, I've been thinking that that's the next step, and I felt a little guilty for not pursuing that with you, but I think you're absolutely correct, and that's something we probably need to do sooner than later. Particularly with summer coming on, it would be an opportunity to probably do some social events and that kind of thing. So I'm thinking that probably what ought to happen is that you and Claire and Jewel and I ought to meet with the administrator at the Irish Place and just have a kind of an introductory meeting so we get to know each other and then kind of feel each other out and see what their expectations are, and then let them know what ours might be.
That'd be great. Yeah, I would love to have them feel that they're a valued member of our community.
I think that we should have later, maybe, or in a committee or something, more discussion about the ongoing role. And is that different than ongoing outreach to any other sector of the neighborhood, or is this a special thing? Or I just want to know more about how ad hoc this is.
So let's have a meeting within the next month to hash all that out, bring it back to the board.
All right.
So
I'd like to point out that it does need to have a board member on this committee. The board member has been falling away one after another. Maybe they killed them off. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's a cause and effect relationship, but you're right, Carly. Okay.
John, Susan has a question about whether we can use a community room, and we had some prior discussion with Kristen about that, and I believe that we are eligible to use it. I think we'd have to confirm that, and I don't know what kind of a schedule might be possible. I think it's open to neighborhood associations, nonprofit groups, and organizations like that. So that's something I think we ought to discuss with the administrator at our initial meeting.
Awesome. I'll reach out to you, Pat, on that. And once I'm pulling together the 245 collectors in the next few weeks to get together and talk and build a plan. And if we, once we have a better idea, we'll reach out to you and see what we can do to facilitate a conversation.
That might be
Thank
a great
you.
place. Good.
Some
Thank
of
you.
it has just been because of COVID that has prevented any of this kind of social interaction.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Greenway.
Well, we talked about this one earlier as well. This is a very active and thriving committee. You approved the letter that we're sending for them to the Planning Commission. They have a major role to play in the neighborhood plan and how the Greenway is affected there. There are the members, and I just add that I asked to have Dwight and Gary added to the list as well because I forgot to add them earlier. So any questions there? Okay, and then there's the Charter Review Committee. We all recognize that's a task that needs to be done. Just to bring those of you who are new up to speed, the charter actually has to be approved by the city council. So the process that we had started through was to develop proposals for revising the charter with the express purpose of separating the charter into a charter and a bylaws. The charter being the minimum required by the city to be in the charter, The rest of our operating rules would be in a set of bylaws that we could actually edit and modify as necessary without having to go back through city staff and city council approval. We got to that point, and then the chair of that committee got Twitter pated and ended up spending his time in other pursuits, and it's sort of languished ever since. We've also identified that there's several other changes we might want to make. So it is appropriate to reinvigorate that committee and take a look at the things that we've caught since then and reinitiate that process. But it needs a chair. Charlesy.
Hi, I want to be part of that. I don't want to be the chair.
Got it.
Also, I think I'm correct in saying that one of the things that that group needs to tackle soon is a new mission statement for RRCO. Is that the group that's, I seem to remember that was.
That's where we did it before, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
So-
we should have that discussion about whether it should be in the charter or in the bylaws, because mission statements tend to morph.
Mhm. It's a good.
So
question. Yeah.
something to consider. Anyone else? I think we had names of people who had volunteered early, but I couldn't find it. Is there anyone else who wants to volunteer to be on that committee? Okay, I guess it's you and me, Charlesy. We'll find others. Okay, so with those modifications, can we approve this list? Would someone like to move that? Because this is a motion that was originally in the consent calendar. Charlesy,
I move that we approve the changes we've discussed in this section of the agenda.
okay. Is there a
I'll second.
second?
I'll second.
Jackie seconds. So we still have more work to do, but we've made a big chunk out of this, taken a big chunk out of this, if you vote to approve. So once again, use your reactions to raise your hand if you support this motion. Okay, I think we all vote yes, so it's an unanimous. That motion passes. And schedule RRCO review of draft neighborhood plan.
So
me.
we had previously scheduled 2 additional meetings a month over a period of time for the board to meet and cover different sections of the plan. But that's, what's the
I think
update on that?
we discussed that in the retreat, I believe.
We did.
So let me sort of tell you where we're at very quickly. We have a draft neighborhood plan. There's some disagreement on whether it's ready for prime time or not, but we agreed because the goal is to complete what's now a 3-year process of getting the plan before the planning commission and the city council and hopefully approved by the end of winter. The project management team, which is myself and Kate Purley from SACO and city staff, agreed to move forward into taking what we have out to the public, getting feedback. And it's clear, it's Kate and my proposal that once we get that feedback, hopefully in the next couple of months, we will take that back to the Community Advisory Committee, see if we need to make any changes with staff in the draft, and then bring it out for the neighborhood associations to review and make their recommendations. So we bought a little more time as we go through that process of doing outreach, but it is incumbent, as Claire says, that we do get up to speed and understand what's in the plan and how we can move forward to getting it in a place where we can recommend it to the Planning Commission and Council. So does that help explain where we're at? And the question that Claire raised is a good one, is how do we get up to speed as a board? Do we want to have separate training sessions to sort of review what's there. I think it would be difficult for us as a board to continue doing the level of business as a board that we are, and also try to put informational sessions into our board meetings as well. So with that, I'll leave it for your response. Dan?
Sorry, my hand was up from voting. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Mine too. I guess I should put mine down. Stefan?
I mean, it seems to me this process has gone on and on and on and on. And do we really need more feedback? And do we really, I mean, isn't it done? Or
Well, I
shouldn't
wrote
it?
an article for the newsletter that identifies 5 issues that are still unresolved. And I'm not comfortable, frankly, recommending this plan until we work through those. So I do think we need more work.
Yeah,
But
I
you-
would not say it's up, it's feedback at this point. It's, we have to vote. So if we don't know how we're gonna vote, we have to sort that out.
Yeah, I had hoped we'd be in a better place. And to be honest, Stefan, we've sort of been treading water for 2 years because of COVID, which is the reason it's taken so long. We had a very robust outreach to the public prior to that, meetings of up to 200 people from the 2 neighborhoods. You can look at that as one way or the other. You can say 200 out of 20,000 isn't very many. On the other hand, when can you have a meeting about land use and planning and get 200 people to attend? So the city will design a process with the CAC that will involve using websites for feedback, hopefully public meetings, reinvigorate the interest, put the issues before the neighborhood and get that feedback. And then it's up to us as a board to say, are we comfortable with where this plan is? Okay. So the burning question is, are we willing to devote time as a board to have yet another meeting or 2 a month in order to get up to speed? I see Stefan's vote. I see Susan's vote. You just canceled each other out. What about everybody else?
I would encourage, I think a really good idea would be for everyone to read the article. We will be sending around the RRCO newsletter within a day or so for people to be able to review. I think when you read the article that John helped draft, I think it will explain there is still a lot of open areas. And as a new board member, I don't have enough information to feel confident voting in favor right now.
Stefan? Okay, got it. So why don't we do this? Take a look at the information that I put in the agenda. Look at the article that Susan will be sending out that she helped me write. And I think we have enough time between now and the next board meeting to digest and discuss what we want to do, and then start next month of making that happen. And I'll try. Yes.
Carlene just posted that maybe we should attend the CAC meetings to listen to the pros and cons discussion. I didn't know if that's possible for everyone, but
Yeah,
good
and
suggestion.
I'll be honest with you, we don't have one scheduled in the near future, but as those become scheduled, Carlene, thank you. I'll make sure the board's aware of
Are the CAC meetings recorded?
them. They haven't been, but they probably should.
Yeah, I mean, it would make it easier for us to be informed.
It's a good point. I'll put that down. So that's a request from our board to have them recorded, unless anyone opposes.
Citizens Advisory Committee, Stefan, it's part of a part of the.
It's the governing committee of the neighborhoods in liaison with the city staff. The other thing I can do is start sending you minutes from the project management team. But maybe what makes more sense is to put all this information on a folder in the Google Drive so that you don't get bombarded with emails and you can go there and see what's going on.
And the project management team is staffed with the representative from the CAC. Is that correct, John?
Yes, the two
Yeah.
co-chairs, myself and Kate Purley.
Right.
Yeah, I'm too deeply embedded in this. Okay. So this one is just as much fun. Number 7, discuss NLC, rep alternative and info share. I did do a quick background of what the NLC is, the Neighborhood Leaders Council. The Neighborhood Leaders Council is not a board or commission approved by the city council for the express reason that if the city council appointed or created this committee, they would also be able to control our agenda. And that's something the neighborhood leaders are not exactly excited about. So it's sort of an ad hoc committee that informally works with the city. And we have a representative, which has been me for the past several years. Recently, we had an alternate to fill in behind me, and that was Harry Sanger, which has its own interesting issues. But nonetheless, we can have an alternate who can sort of piggyback. The concern that I've heard from board members in the past is that they're getting either too little or too much information about what's going on in the CAC. And I'll be honest, the NLC. And I'll be honest, a lot of what goes on in the NLC never goes anywhere. So what I propose is that we appoint an NLC rep. If anyone is interested in being the alternate, we appoint that person as well. And it's the responsibility of the NLC rep to make sure that all the agendas, minutes, and any other pertinent information such as committees be put in a folder on the Google Drive so that anyone who wants to follow what's going on can. So the information is there if you want it, but whoever's the NLC rep doesn't necessarily send 5 messages a month about NLC stuff that frankly, most of you won't be concerned about. So thoughts about what we should do?
First of all, we need to extend the meeting to another 15 minutes after till 9 o'clock if needed.
Okay, that a motion to extend till 9 o'clock? We can
I'll
always
move.
adjourn early.
I'll move that we extend till 9 o'clock.
Okay, Chelsea moves. Susan, you seconding? Okay, all those in favor of extending the meeting, please use your reaction to raise your hand. Okay, all those opposed? Stefan, what's your vote? Okay, all those passes unanimously. Thank you. So quickly thoughts. Claire.
I think that this would take a little bit of thinking through, but there's a lot of BS that goes on at the NLC that we don't want to spend our mental space with. But there are some critical things, like, for instance, this move by the HRNI to tell us how to work, to make us more representative or whatever, that are really critical. So I think we should make some guidelines about this is what we want to hear about, and we don't want to hear about extraneous stuff. And how to define that is a little bit fuzzy, but that's what I think. We need some guidelines about what's important and what isn't.
Well, I think there's 3 questions here. Who is going to be our NLC rep? Do we want an alternate? If so, who that is? And number 3, how is information disseminated? Chelsea?
Yeah, I'm too tired to make decisions around this tonight exactly, but I agree with Claire that it's both described sometimes as a committee with no teeth or whatever, but it also creates things like the ENPN or the wildfire committee or transportation committee that can influence decisions that do and end up affecting us. So I have, I don't want to be an alternate necessarily, but I think they need to be watched and we need to hear on occasion what's going on there.
So unless someone makes a motion on one of those three pieces, I suggest we table this for another time and just go with the current rep. Oh, that's me.
I guess so.
Claire,
Yeah, that's fine with me. I move that that's what we do.
I'll second that.
Table. I move that we table
okay, to a time certain or indefinitely?
to next month.
Next month, yeah.
Okay, so there is a motion seconded to table this motion or this discussion until next month. All
Who
those-
seconded it?
I did,
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Thank you, Stefan. It's made by Claire, seconded by Charles. All those in favor, raise your hands. Okay, I saw Misty's hand up and
Charles has a
everybody else
check.
is already. So it passes unanimously. It's tabled till next month.
Okay. But you
Item
have to
number-
remember all of the description that John explained already.
Maybe I'll be a little more succinct next time. Number 8.
We did, which is scheduling the next board meeting. We said we wanted to do it quarterly. And I did propose a time, and I'm just trying to pull up my calendar to remind myself when that was.
June 25th.
June 25th. So that's the proposal for the next board retreat, June 25th.
So do we want to set a specific hour and duration and place?
Same as before.
Let's at least lock on the date first. Does
Yeah.
everybody agree on the 25th?
Anyone have a problem with the 25th? It's a
I'm
Saturday.
down.
I can only go till 3:30 on that day.
Oh, I work on Saturdays.
Okay, we had this problem last time, I thought, and we went to Sunday. And
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
how about the 26th then?
I didn't hear the month, sorry.
June.
January. Oh.
Okay. we're
June
getting this laugh
26th,
happening
Sunday.
now.
Can someone say the date? There's a lot of back and forth. I don't know what date we're talking about.
Sunday, June 26th. Anybody who can't make it?
I can't make it after 3:30.
Okay,
It would have to be short.
okay, so also true for Sunday, Stefan?
Yes,
Okay,
Saturday would be okay. Sunday's the day I
I
can't go past 3:30.
Okay. So Sunday, the 24th, maybe 11 to 3 or something like that.
And did I hear you volunteer my house?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I thought I heard that. Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Claire. Somebody else
Claire-
can volunteer to bring snacks next time, and
Yeah.
I'll donate my house.
Claire, you had said the 24th, but it's the 26th.
It's the 26th, yeah.
correct.
We could have it at my place if you want to have it at someplace else, but just letting
I
Susan.
don't
know
mind. I'm just giving
she
Claire a hard
doesn't
time.
have to.
I'm just giving Claire a hard time. Sorry.
Okay.
So at Susan's, and what are the hours again?
Shall we say 11 to 3 or 11 to 2:30, 11 to 2?
I just need to confirm with my family that that time works. So because
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a big portion of our house. So
Okay, so
I will
3
say
hours.
26 is great. Tentatively, those hours are good.
So we're saying it's going to be 3 hours as opposed to 4 hours last time. Is that right?
Yeah, I have to end at 2 that day.
Okay,
Okay.
so 11 to 2.
Good. Without objection, that's what we'll do. Okay. Form
I-
outreach expenditure, please.
I'm sorry, can I just, I know we talked in the last session about having the neighborhood plan discussion at a board meeting. Is that something that we could at least discuss at the retreat from an education perspective?
That's
So
a
is
good
that something
idea,
we need more
rather
time
than
with?
wait.
I just want
Yeah.
to be cognizant of the fact that we can't discuss anything that we're gonna make decisions on, but we can at least get education.
Yeah.
Right,
Thank you.
good point. Okay, number 9 is a pleasant problem to have. In the past, we have not been able to do newsletters or other significant outreach because the city was unwilling to fund outreach for those of us who were not residents of the city. So last year, we asked the county commission to pony up the money for the equivalent amount for our residents, and they agreed to do so. And as a result, we have a full bucket of money to spend on neighborhood outreach, which includes newsletters, could include printing more neighborhood signs, could be used for various committees for what they need to purchase to be more effective, could be a canopy so that we're in the rain, we don't have to run and borrow one. All those things are things we could do with that money. And I pointed to you what the requirements are for making that decision, and the enviable problem we have of needing, if we want to demonstrate to the county and the city that we will use these funds, to spend another $8,500 between now and the end of June. I don't think it's reasonable for us to try to figure out how to do that here, but it would be useful to form a committee whose job is to make that recommendation and then bring that out to an e-vote for us, or perhaps at the next board meeting, so we can allocate and spend that money. Are there any questions about that? Claire, your hand's up?
No, that was old.
I'll lower your hand. Yeah, Jackie.
I do have one. You said you pointed us to how that decision is made, but I didn't see a link in the agenda. You mean how, like what qualifies so we could spend that money on?
Yeah, I did. There was I think I put a link in a document that's in the G Drive on what the city's requirements are for spending that money. If not, I'll go back and make sure it does. It is there.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
But right now, we need a few people to volunteer to collect information and make that proposal. Assuming we want to spend the money. Charlesy?
I thought you were leaning in the direction of creating a committee. Is that to
Yes,
do that?
exactly.
So is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I'm interested very much. in that.
Okay,
I would be interested in that as well, Jackie.
okay.
Ditto. I'm always interested in spending money.
Anyone else?
Other people's money.
Exactly.
Well, actually, some of it's ours because it's county money, but anyhow. So it would be appropriate to form a committee with a charge of coming back within the next 3 weeks with a proposal on how we can spend that surplus money to benefit the neighborhood. Would someone like to make that motion? Charlesy?
Yes, I'd like to propose we form a committee to come up with recommendations on how to spend that money to benefit the neighborhood.
And
This
the
is
one
Susan,
thing
I'm
I didn't
seconding.
say is ad hoc committee, but
An
yes.
ad hoc committee, thank you.
And I'm
Susan?
seconding. I second.
Okay. Charlesy made the motion to form the committee. Susan seconded it. And right now we have Charlesy, Susan, Jackie, and myself as Rose committee members. Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote. All in favor, raise your hands. Okay, Stefan. Yes, we can have a summer party this year. Stefan, are you in favor?
This money has to be encumbered by June 30th, correct?
Correct.
As in the invoices have to be received by the 30th or the,
We'll figure it out. I'm not sure
Okay.
exactly.
okay.
Stefan dropped off. So we have a vote of, there he is.
I'm back.
Aye or nay, sir?
I and who seconded?
Susan,
Oh,
Oh,
Susan did.
I'm sorry.
Chelsea moved, Susan seconded. And
Okay.
you vote aye, so it's 9-0. Unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Finally, we have to set the agenda. Claire, that's yours, and I have a need of personal privilege, and I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay, so there are a bunch of suggestions at the bottom of our handout, which I'm scrolling down, but you can't see it. uh,
They're at the top of page
It's at the
11.
top. Okay, thank you. Page 11, top of page 11. Okay, so we have the items that we had in May, which is the North Eugene High School. And so they're building new buildings and they don't know what to do with the old ones. So that's the issue there. Howard Avenue redesign and the Beltline Bridge. Discussion with the community in Sarai on the neighborhood navigation center, maybe, and then the dam inundation and disaster prep stuff. And then the Social Justice Committee asked that we, when we decide to have a land acknowledgement in our opening blurb, that we spend a little bit of time on the agenda to have a deeper discussion about land acknowledgement. So that's what's on the list. Is there anything else that people would like to add? We did also have the Eugene Public Library had asked to come talk to
Oh,
us.
that's right. Thank you.
Yeah. So discussion, shall we just do the redo the May meeting in June? Is anybody there?
Yeah, the only thing that I think we may or may not want to add is as a discussion about the navigation center, so we let our neighbors know what's going on there. But I don't say
I don't
that's
think we're not gonna be ready for that in June, right?
well, but this is their opportunity to provide input. That's the only reason that I thought we might want to include it. But I'm really not advocating. I'm just saying if I look at what is there as being timely, that one and the only other one that it isn't timely, but it might be politic. We got a request from Northeast neighbors to have a discussion and a vote on whether we want to advocate to ODOT in the city of Eugene of building the arterial bridge on Beltline. They're hep to make that happen, and they asked us to do it, and I told them we didn't have time in this board meeting. So just putting all that out there is grist for the mill for discussion.
I don't see any comment. This is open for discussion. Anybody feel passionate about any of these to have sooner rather than later?
Chelsea's hand is up.
Okay, Chelsea.
You're muted, Chelsea.
I'm going to defer to others as to the urgency of these various issues. I can't really speak about the navigation center. I did hear a presentation at Santa Clara's Neighborhood Association a few weeks ago. It went well. I mean, if that needs to happen to clue in the neighborhood, that Sarai did a beautiful job. And but I wanted to comment just for a second about the dam inundation maps, and then more recently, the Army Corps of Engineer information about the condition of the dams. The dams that surround us are in terrible shape, apparently. And I do think that issue needs to be shared with the general public. My concern, which I shared with John, is that I think we need representatives from the Army Corps of Engineers to be there. I would hope it wouldn't just be somebody reassuring us that it isn't that bad. And so I'd like a frank discussion about those dams and what is being done to improve them from very, very bad to safe. If anybody here knows how to get speakers like that, I would sure appreciate knowing about it.
I'm interested in that or helping. Yeah.
I had a question about that one. If the emergency prep team would be ready to combine that item with a discussion of Map Your Neighborhood or other kind of, organizing activities.
Okay, my reaction to that is I see them as very different, but are you saying
Oh,
for the
really?
whole meeting? Well, yes.
Yeah, to have the, 2 items of the agenda be that and
Oh,
actually
okay.
how can neighbors take care of that issue? When we get swamped, does anybody have a canoe?
I think I need to talk to Jackie about it. I see them as so very different, and I'm really concerned about how to get good speakers on the dam issue. The Map Your Neighborhood thing is just a very different, a different area of expertise. I'm sure we could put together something, but we're still waiting for the state to come out with a program that replaces, we've been waiting for over a year, I think. But aside from that, Jackie, I know, is very interested in us creating our own Map Your Neighborhood materials that we really need, that would speak to the needs of, again, this regional area. And I don't know that we have a deadline set yet on when those materials will be created, but we'd be thrilled to make that presentation. I just don't know what month. But the arrangement for the dams is so expertise specific that's why I'm pointing that out. So I'll just stop right there. Thank you. Yes, the answer is yes.
Chelsea, I'll reach out to some folks I know and see. I'll do some scratching and digging and reach out to you.
Okay.
Do we
Yeah.
have a deadline? Do we have any time frame? I know the sooner the better, or
No, I think it would be good for us to talk, because it really, I can't give a deadline not knowing who we'll be able to get to talk about that.
Sure. I'm just saying, is this something that I missed the last meeting?
Yeah, I think John probably has something to say to enlighten
Okay.
us on that.
Thank you. This is a perspective of over the years trying to find a way to get people engaged in dealing with emergency preparedness in the neighborhood. And we frankly have struck out over and over and over again, partially because maybe we didn't know how to try. To me, the idea of your house being under 30 feet of water is a great motivator. And I think we should plan to present this information then, and also, and here's what you can do about it, and would you sign up now, please, is the package that I would like to see. But it does mean that we have to have the information about the dams and their potential impact and a way for folks to respond. Those are 2 things that, in my opinion, we shouldn't move forward until both are ready and take advantage of that. But that's just from being frustrated and not being successful in the past.
So John, with your contacts, anything you can do to help us identify who we might be able to reach out to, I'd really appreciate.
Yep, I used to work in Lowell, so I may have some contacts with the Corps.
Stefan has his hand up.
I really don't think we want to be alarmist about this and get people all excited unduly. And I think that our East Lane County Commissioner, Heather Buck, might be a resource
idea.
since the dams are in her jurisdiction. So that might be someplace to reach out. But I really don't want to start making people think they're going to be inundated by 30 feet of water, which I don't think is going to happen.
Have you seen the map, Stefan?
It has happened before. So, anyway.
Yeah, we're facing the possibility of subduction event in the next 50 years. It's 38% likely that that could happen. The dams are presumably in very bad shape and they could breach. It is something to not make people terrified, but at least get them talking, starting to ask for accountability on the part of decision makers as to what in the heck is going to happen. What's being done to mitigate that risk?
So are we suggesting that this is going to be in a couple months, the meeting in a couple months, or are we talking about June? We need to decide the June meeting.
No, it would not be right away because I think we
Okay.
need to line up who we're talking about. Yeah.
So the June meeting is going to be what we tried to do in May, plus maybe the highway bridge issue. Correct, John?
Could be, that works. I
And
mean,
then the navigation center, I thought I heard John say that's important soon.
you know, we could make it informational in the e-news as well. That's another
Yeah.
way to get that word out. I just don't want someone to come up and say, you know, you've got all these people using drugs in our neighborhood and you never told me about it. Worst case scenario, but I don't want to, I want to have some credibility around that issue.
Is that how he sounded, John?
No, not at all, but it is a potential reality that someone's going to say that. No, it's a very sensitive issue. I really support what needs to be done to make this happen, but there are some potential impacts. So Claire suggests we do rebuild of North Eugene High School, Howard Avenue, the library, and Beltline Arterial Bridge. I think that's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
let's-
not all of those people are going to show up.
Well, one of the people forgot, one of them never got asked, and the other one didn't have the right length for some reason.
Okay, we're actually over after 9 now, so we need to move on, make a decision and do it.
I suggest we put Navigation Center in the e-news and do North Eugene High School, Howard Avenue, Beltline Arterial Bridge, and save Eugene Public Library for another day. Because
agree.
it's not time sensitive. It's
Yeah.
useful
Yes.
information.
Sounds good to me.
Without objection,
Yay.
okay.
Oh, sorry.
Anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn? That was a lot of work, folks. We got through it. Thank you so much.
I do have one quick thing. I put it in the notes. We have events, an events section on the newsletter. For any events that you have scheduled after June the 10th, can you please get them to me and Chelsea ASAP? We need them for the print newsletter. And again, these would be specific events that we're doing for the board and or neighborhood events that you're aware of that are open to the public. Anything open that's happening June 10th or after. Thank you.
You might check with the rec center for their free event schedule. I do that every month.
It's a
That'd be
very
great.
good idea. Thank you.
Anybody who needs to save the chat, be sure to do so.
Thank you for that reminder. I'll grab it.
Thanks for staying late, everybody.
Got a lot done. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
All right.
I've got the chat.
Okay, I'm ending.
Got the chat.